Warning, this video contains flashing images. Welcome back to my channel, one and all. I hope you're all doing amazingly well. Here we are once again with some more true Reddit scary stories. Now, are these stories real or are they made up? What do you all think out there? The decision is all yours. Without a further ado, let us begin the video. Naro Escape. When I was 11 years old, we recently moved from Orlando to Cedartown, GA. I remember walking to school as I did most of the time. After several turns, I noticed a dark green car must have been following me, because it was just there behind me. I really didn't think much about it until it slowed down to keep pace with me. I started to get a little scared, so I went to the closest house to me and knocked on the door. I told the woman that answered that I think there's a car following me. She told me to wait and she would have her son walk me the rest of the way. As the green car with a woman driving slowly went past me, she looked right at me through the windshield. And I have the feeling of dread and utter terror pass through me. As the years went by, I had forgotten about it until I was in my early 20s and I was reading a true crime book. When I came to this section that had pictures, that same feeling of utter terror passed through me when I seen a picture that face behind the windscreen, and right next to it, the same green car. The woman driving the car that day was Judith Ann Neely. If you have any ghost videos you would like me to react to, why not send them to my email address? Thank you very much. The Bumpy Man. I think I've posted the story as a comment somewhere before, but nonetheless, I'm going to share it again. So I've always been open to paranormal things. I recall several things as a child, but the older I get, the less I see as adulthood and responsibilities of taking my ability to see things like I once did. I had a son in January of 2011. By 2013, when he was almost 2 years old, we moved out of my mother's house into our own apartment. It was a kind of a rushed ordeal, as my mother and I butt heads a lot. And as soon as I had the money, I went to the first available opening. The apartment manager had actually asked me to hold on for an extra 2 weeks because, as she said, some girls were moving to Florida and left the place in a mess, and it needed cleaned up. She never asked for a credit check, any references, anything. It was just an okay, I'll let you know as soon as the rent is up to par. I moved in probably a month after she said I could have the unit. Upon moving in, I had a strange but comforting feeling. I started out with nothing but a box of toys and a nice blow-up mattress for myself and my almost 2-year-old son to share. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom, lots of closet space. Eventually, we made it home, but one day my son was in the spare room, what was going to be his room, and started laughing. A hearty baby laugh that takes work to muster from any baby, really. I walk in and he is staring at a corner and acts as though he doesn't even see me there. Then suddenly he stops. Anyone with a child knows this is a little odd. The child would normally look to the source of entertainment for more, but my son just stopped and toddled towards me as if I told him to do so. It seemed odd, but I dismissed it. Fast forward a few months, we got our own beds, although I let him sleep in mine, and I awake one night to him belly laughing once again, full of giggles in the darkness. Nothing but the moonlight through the sheer curtains bouncing from my face into his, since I'm the one facing the window. and he's looking over my shoulder into the darkness. A big smile spread over his face as I say, "What's so funny, my honey?" And he said, "The man!" as he's still gazing over my shoulder. But then his smile gets scared and serious as he puts his tiny finger over his lips as though he is mimicking someone, and he says, "Shh, no mama, no man, go night night." Needless to say, I did not go night night that night. Days, weeks passed, small incidents happened where he'd be laughing or talking with his friend. I started not worrying about it because to me it wasn't that a big deal. He stopped being creepy at night. One day though, he was in what was supposed to be his room, just cracking up, laughing once again. When he came into the living room, I asked him what was so funny. He replied, "The man, he's funny. He tells me jokes. He's not a monster. He tells me jokes. He's nice, mama." I was like, ooh, he's got an imaginary friend. Wonderful, wherever. This goes on another week or two, till one day he's in his room having a full conversation. I don't recall what, I just remember hearing him chatting in there as if having an actual conversation, and him repeating a word I knew he didn't know. Too big for an almost 2-year-old's vocabulary. He comes into the living room and I ask again, "Who are you talking in there?" He said, "The man, mama." I knew I shouldn't ask, but I did. I said, "What's the man look like?" He replies, "Bumpy. He's bumpy. Mom, looked like a monster, but not a monster, Mom. He's nice. He tells me jokes. He nice." I am sitting there like, okay, cool. This is totally an imaginary friend. All is fine. And that was that. A few days later, I wake up suddenly to a fight in the hallway. My next door neighbour had come home drunk and was banging her apartment door like a complete psycho. I had grown up rather comfortable in a town where literally locking your doors was optional. So for once, I went to the door to lock it, so this woman wouldn't accidentally open my door. It was already locked. The door handle, the deadbolt, and the chain lock. I had never touched the deadbolt, let alone the chain lock. I was confused, but wrote it off as me being a tired mom. The next morning, bright and early, my son wakes me to, "Mama, the man saved us. He locked the door from the bad lady, Mama." Again, I write it off as he heard the commotion the night before, and I credited his imaginary friend for my actions. Later that day, I had just gotten a carload of groceries, and I took the first few bags in and up the stairs and got a movie in for my son to occupy him while I got the rest inside. I go out maybe the 3rd or 4th trip, and the neighbour catches me. She's my age. I hadn't met her before, but she seems kind. She approaches me and introduces herself, then asks, "Maybe this isn't appropriate. How much did you pay for your apartment?" I didn't exactly know the rules to how units were priced, or what have you, so I just vaguely asked why, and she said, "Well, did they tell you what happened there?" And I was like, "No." She said she was waiting on some girls to move out who were going to Florida, but I trailed off. She says, "No, there was a dad and son who lived in there. They both had that like genetic disease where you get bumps or polyps all over your skin. The son killed himself in the spare bedroom by overdosing. Nobody knew for days. They had all sorts of cleaning crews in there. It's a shame too, because he'd always tell kids jokes and say, 'See, I tell jokes, I'm not a monster.' He was so sweet to the boys. He was so worried about scaring them. He'd always tell them jokes."
Thank you for the great support, I really do appreciate it. If you are enjoying what I'm doing, why not think about subscribing to my channel? It is free and would help me a great deal.
Retired paramedic story time. I should write a book about my paramedic days. I posted this in a different hour and had quite the response. Thought I'd share it here. Retired paramedic here. I had a call on a very desolate stretch of road for a car sitting in the middle of the road, covered in blood. Of course it happened at 2 AM, just like every horror story. We arrive on scene and find a new Camaro sitting in the middle of the road that had obviously been in an accident. Problem is, there is absolutely nothing else around the car. No persons, no other vehicles, nothing. Part of my job then was a tactical paramedic for our sheriff's department. Sounds all exciting and high speed, low drag. Nope, not as a medic. I got paid to wait for stuff to happen and sit in the rear with the gear. This being said, my paramedic partner and I both had pistols in the ambulance. As we start approaching the Camaro, my partner is shining a light around when he says really low, hushed and rushed, back, now, he says. I shine my light in the car and there is intestines wrapped around the gear shifter and a lung in the back seat. So we kind of freaked out. Called dispatch, let them know what's happening, and we are in the process of getting out of there till the cops show up when we see a figure appear walking down the road towards us. As he gets closer, we see he is covered in blood and gore. We both throw on our tactical vests, helmets, snatch our weapons, as I sound like a frightened Home Alone 9-year-old on the radio to dispatch. We approach and start screaming at him to get on the ground, which he does. After everyone's heart rate is below 200 BPM, we start talking and figure out what happened. This guy had purchased a brand new Camaro and drove it to its desolate stretch of road to open it up. He said 1 minute he is shifting gears, and the next thing he knows his car is all over the road and his mouth was full of blood, and it seemed like an explosion had went off. I start looking his injuries over and can't really see anything major and ask him about the passenger in his car. He said, "What passenger?" My partner says there's a lung in the back seat. Dude goes straight into mental overload and can't come up with anything, so I'm guessing he's hurt. Get him in the ambulance. Please, we're 5 minutes away. We potentially have another victim out there. I have to go look by myself. I walk through the crash scene. Look in the car, and sure enough, intestines wrapped around the gear shifter, lung in the back seat. Looks like part of a liver. Looks like a hand grenade went off inside the car. I walk around the other side of the car and see a faint blood smeared stain on the road. Walk to it. Something else further down the road, so I keep walking towards it. I finally see something on the side of the road and run up to it. Honestly, completely freaked me out. Scared to death about the body I was about to see. And the dude had hit a deer. What happened is, when he was winding the car out, state police estimated him well over 100 miles per hour. A deer jumped into his car's pathway and hit the top corner of the windshield in its stomach. When the windshield crashed, it created a negative vacuum in the car, sucking almost all of the deer's organs out and into the car and all over him. I had the fire department contaminate him, wrap him in some blankets, and took him to the hospital. For many, many years after my wonderful 911 dispatchers happily played the recording for anyone who wishes to hear it. Thank you one and all for tuning in to my new video. Very much appreciate it. If you enjoyed, why not comment, like and subscribe? That would help me out a great deal, my friends. Thank you very much. Here are other videos that might interest you. Until next time, I shall scare you later.